You on. We're joined now by criminal barrister and author Chris Daw KC. Chris, from your experience, thank you for joining us on Jake Alive. Are tougher sentences the right approach to violent crime? Because I cannot, in my head, unless I'm missing the point, right? I consider myself reasonably intelligent. Rachel is telling us he was basically killed in an unprovoked attack, and he got 3 years, 9 months. It's a bloody joke, man, isn't it?
Well, I think it's very difficult if you don't know the full facts of the case and you're only looking at it from one very specific perspective to understand exactly why the judge passed that sentence. I have enormous respect for Rachel in expressing her views and seeking to have the sentence increased. I can't possibly comment on whether it was legally the right sentence or not. All I can say is this: it was manslaughter and not murder. And that means that there was no intent to kill. There was no intent to cause grievous bodily harm, and therefore, effectively, it was, as Barry has just suggested, what is known as a one-punch manslaughter. It's a tragic event. The outcome is utterly unpredicted and unpredictable, utter tragedy. But whether or not you need longer and longer sentences for cases like that, I think, is a much bigger question.
I disagree with you, but there we go. Is prison an effective deterrent, do you think, for these thugs?
Prison is no deterrent for anyone. It never has been. Anyone who's looked at the evidence will realise that in the United States they have 2.5 million people in prison. Does that deter violent crime in Chicago, New York or Miami? Of course not. Prison's never been a deterrent for anything. It doesn't operate as a deterrent. It operates in only one way, which is to restrict liberty and to stop people committing further crimes for a short period of time or for whatever period they're locked up. If you want to reduce violent crime, stop banging on about punishment and cracking down and all of this stuff, and ask yourself this: what reduces crime? What stops people like Rachel and Barry getting that knock on the door at night telling them that their son or their daughter has been killed? I'll tell you what it is. It's not more prison. Prison is a training ground for criminals, and violent criminals in particular. The more imprisonment you have in a society, the more violent crime you have, the more murders. And so, Jeremy, you really need to stop with this rhetoric.
So tell me what the answer is then. You said that prison isn't. What is the answer? You've got to understand from Rachel's point of view. She sees a man walk up to her brother who's never been involved in any form of violence and be beaten to death almost until he has brain damage. And OK, I'll take your point about prison not being a deterrent, Chris. Absolutely, you're right. What I'm saying is, how do we stop this then? Because since Sadiq Khan, for example, became the mayor of London, that kid, Reynald Charles, 16, the other day, the 150th teenager. And you're right, we talk about this the whole time. There are people like Barry who have far more about them than I will ever have, and I genuinely mean that. We have people like Rachel who are angry and bitter and confused and disillusioned, and I understand that. You're the lawyer. What do we need to do, Chris?
Every word of what Barry told you and told your viewers at the beginning of his interview is, there's nothing I could improve upon. His ability to understand that just ever-increasing sentences and ever tougher approaches to criminal justice doesn't bring back his son and doesn't stop other people's children being murdered, that sort of insight is what we need in criminal justice. So the answer is a simple one. Stop sending children to children's prisons when they're 12 or 13 or 14 and expect them not to come out and become an adult murderer, rapist or other violent criminal. If we carry on criminalising and imprisoning children, we end up with generation after generation of violent adults. We need to stop doing that as a first step. There are many other things we could talk about, Jeremy, but that's one of the first ones. Children in care, children who are in the care system, are 15 times more likely to go to prison. Why is that? Is it because they're inherently more dangerous and violent children? Or is it because the care system itself fails children, causes them to become involved in gangs and crime, and sadly leads to this ever-escalating series of murders on the streets of our capital, over which, incidentally, Sadiq Khan has almost no control as Mayor of London? Criminal justice policy is set by the Home Office.
Very eloquent. Final word from you, Rachel. How do you respond quickly to what Chris has just said?
The man that killed Paul was not a child. He's a 34-year-old man who was drunk and anxious and out of control. He'll be out in over a year, just over a year. Who's to say he won't get drunk and anxious again and kill someone else? Where's the public protection there?
I would love to continue this. I thank all of you, Barry, Rachel, Chris as well. Thank you so much. We'll do more on